this is December 5th, 2018, Sutton Conservation. First thing on the agenda at 7 o'clock is 172.5 Manchog Road. Project update or an amended order of conditions. Is that you?
It's me.
Would you like to tell us what you want to do here?
We've gone through this, the zoning board and the Board of Health. Been approved by both to tear down the camp, what we call the camp, and put on a new home. And I'm here tonight just to ask you is what you need me to do as far as conservation requirements. The footprint is staying exactly the same. There's no additions to the footprint. Basically tear down, where there's a side porch, we'll pour a concrete foundation. We do the piers out in front of the house, and that's about it. I understand wattles and silt fence and that. I was just wondering if there was any other requirements that you need.
I have old pictures from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, is this an existing order?
There is an
Yes.
existing.
Oh, okay.
order,
So
yeah.
this
is the one next to Karen Bronson?
Yep.
Is that right? Did you do a septic recently?
Yes.
Yeah, they did.
What
yeah.
is
Bad
it?
memory, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
good.
Right. So,
Yes.
do any of these pictures help you tell your story?
Can you see Andy from there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the garage will have a second story on it for storage.
It's not a full story though, right? It's just an.
Just like 6 foot on from the second
Mhm.
floor above. That's been approved. And the house will be totally taken down to the foundation, a new foundation under the porch. Because it's covered porch, it's allowed to be.
So what do you consider the porch?
If you can go around this corner,
Wrong corner.
other side, yeah,
Well, I'm going down. I'm going that side.
there you go. Yeah, that's the back.
Is that the porch?
That'll,
Sorry.
those piers in the front will have to be redone. The building inspector wants those redone. So there'll be 3 piers in the front and then another set of piers in the back. But the outside, from the outside edge in is 5 feet. That's an open deck. And then the house will go up from there, on the other side. Yeah. So that's,
Did that help?
yeah, so right where those piers are now, those will be redug up and new piers put on.
The same spot though?
Same spot, exact same spot. Yeah, and then,
Yeah, it's right on the water, isn't it?
back in the day, they let you build on the water, I guess.
They did. This side.
That side right there, I don't know if you have another, like a, there you go. So that will become inside of the house now. 'Cause
Oh.
it's because it's covered, it's considered, it can be used as interior space. So that will have a concrete foundation under it, open to the basement. So that's,
So is the footprint of it, is it getting any bigger?
no,
Okay. So, so what's your request?
Mr. Andrews, we have a plot plan, but it doesn't show right, silt fence and hay bales. And he said, before we go any farther, what would you require on the plot plan to be submitted so we can get it approved?
Well, there was an order of conditions issued in 2016, right? And all
For the
you were
old
doing
plans.
was installing a pipe cage on the septic system, 65 feet.
Would propose, increases to the.
I don't, well, let me, good question.
This is a new, this is September 4th.
I think these are the same. They just show. This is
Yeah.
maybe showing.
Right.
I guess the question would be, how do you want to amend the plan? We need to know how you want to amend it from the approved plan.
I'm just gonna turn this TV a little bit. I think what he's saying is the foundation stays, you do footings in the front and a little piece of foundation underneath that existing if I understood him right, right? The only in the ground thing is the footings.
The
And that
pier's
little-
out in front and underneath that porch.
A little
That's the
frost
only-
wall or
And
something?
the footprint doesn't change, because,
We're using
Everything-
the existing foundation?
yes.
What is the existing foundation?
It's poured concrete and 8-inch block wall, which has already been approved by the building inspector.
So what I think he's thinking is, because it's little impact, everything stays, he's already done his septic. The garage, what you wanna do, just put a little roof on,
Just-
take
yeah,
it off
just-
and make it have a knee wall with some storage? Is that what I understood?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
So there's no touching anything in the ground, that's all existing. The roof's not changing, so it's just adding walls. This is all done.
No cutting trees?
Are those
nothing?
pictures, Brandon, before or after? Is it all stabilized and in good shape?
That's all, those are pictures from before the tight tank got put in.
Yeah,
But I saw the tight tank in it, that was de minimis, I mean,
So there's really not a lot of open, it's just, what's the plans for the footings? Because there's those geotech posts that you can put in, but you gotta dig to dig the old ones out, so I guess you already have holes.
we'll have,
He's not changing the footprint, that's the big thing. With regards to the bylaw, the question is, are you changing the footprint? And if he's not, then the only question I would have for the board is, because it's a demo rebuild, do you have any requirements as far as,
Is it a demo
stormwater
rebuild?
coming off the roof?
Down
Because
foundation.
Hmm?
Foundation
It's
It's
stay.
all existing though, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's a gray area, because anytime there's a new structure or addition to an existing structure, the commission wants that new roof to be infiltrated. This is demo rebuild on an existing footprint. Do you consider that to be new roof that would require infiltration or not?
Is it a demo,
You're demolishing, yeah.
yes,
the house?
yes.
So can I ask it a certain way? So sometimes that can just be crushed stone aprons around the edges of the
That's
house.
what's there now. That's what
So
I
would-
planned on.
So we talked about putting some stuff on a plan, so crushed stone down the sides is cool? Because there's no real front yard. I'm sure it's in groundwater, so how are we gonna make them do a recharge? Wouldn't,
It's not gonna work.
I think rain gardens, from some literature I just read recently, maybe they can cause bacteria at the edge of the water. That was one of the engineers, you didn't see their comments about a rain garden in some edge of the water recently?
Sounds vaguely familiar that I summarily
Something.
dismissed.
Yeah, but anyways, I thought the same. But I think crushed stone,
That's fine.
In the parts that can be crushed, because there's a concrete, when you come down from the road, it's all concrete sidewalk. Which,
You're keeping, right?
very minimal disturbance, very, very minimal disturbance.
What do I have here?
Yeah. See it?
Yeah.
This thing right here.
And that's poured right up to the house. I know on the other side, there is
So
patio.
that's the part that faces, that comes from the street.
That's the street side, the street view.
so the question is, can we amend the plan to add that work with hay bales? Or do you have to close this out and do a new
I
order?
don't even know if you have to do anything.
Wash them out, that was soap and water, you said hay bales.
Oh, jeez. So,
Wattles.
Wattles.
This is demo rebuild on the same footprint. So I.
No other disturbance, no trees cutting, I mean,
No,
it's
as
pretty,
long- their main responsibility is to make sure that sediment stays out of the pond, which would require some kind of erosion control down the bottom. Otherwise, if they were increasing the footprint by 1 square foot, sure, but they're not. So if you look at the bylaw, says for, you know, replacement, in-kind replacement, it's exempt activity.
so we could amend the current order of conditions to include the demo.
You don't have
We
to.
You
don't have
do
to?
anything.
Nothing? Okay.
The only thing that I would add to that is, being on the water, somebody's gonna call, so
That's why I didn't think we should.
we
Put
should
erosion
have some.
Just put erosion controls up, that's it.
Oh, yeah, right.
Just put a silk fence and some things right down by the water and done.
I'll still fence up the sides.
No, no,
Maybe we
just the edge of the water, that's it, just a little road
Maybe we
down,
could
because you're
just
not doing a
have-
lot of this, there's not a lot going on.
Maybe we could just have you call in when you start or whatever, so we know what's going on, because somebody's
Let me
somebody's
bring
gonna
up the
call.
bylaw real
So
quick, just to
silk
make sure
fence.
we're all.
A silk fence down by the water?
Just along your wall.
Yeah,
Okay.
Along the wall,
Yeah, just along the wall, a little strip around there, yeah,
In waddles.
in wattles.
and wattles,
Uh,
not hay bales.
Thank you.
hay bills are for hay rides,
Your
right?
neighbor beat you to it. His got knocked down, I noticed, in the past couple days.
All right,
Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Berkowitz,
that's
yeah.
not, yeah.
The house, yes.
All right. Well, we need a motion?
I guess,
The way it reads, right here. An application and permit required by this bylaw shall not be required for in-kind maintenance or repairs to pre-existing and duly permitted structures, appurtenances, or maintained areas. It doesn't exactly say demo rebuild. It's not exactly a maintenance or repair, but I think it kind of fits into that category, kinda, sorta. That's up to you.
I think to be safe, we make a motion to amend the order of conditions to include, so it's on record, the demo rebuild of the house at 172.5, and with, the thing we'd like to see is 12-inch 100% biodegradable straw wattle along the water's edge, and then
Well, in the past, we've asked for silk fence and wattle.
silt fence and a
water.
wattle, because you're right there.
So I'll have Mr. Andrews draw a silk fence.
Well, it'd be nice if
You have to
did.
do anything after
I
tonight.
don't need anything.
Nothing.
Just
So-
make sure we do it when
Just
we
do it.
call
Just do
you,
it.
call
Just
you.
do it.
He was
when
just
you
saying,
go.
call,
An
we got the
inspection.
wattles, we're
Yeah.
gonna start the project, and everybody's happy.
Okay.
Was that a motion?
That was a motion.
I'll
Well, hold on. Sorry to be the.
Debbie Downer.
Here. If this is an amendment, then the process for that is to send a letter saying what you wanna do. The commission votes on it, and then you have to reopen the hearing, which means that they have to put in a new legal ad, have to re-notify all the abutters. Or you could call it a minor field change.
Make a motion to issue a minor field change for 172.5 Manchog Road to include adding 12-inch 100% biodegradable straw wattles with the silt fence along the water's edge.
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Have fun. Thanks for coming
We
in.
don't plan to start it till the spring, so if you don't hear from us, we didn't forget you. Thank you.
Have a good night.
We don't have to do anything else.
All right, this one here, I don't know if they got the letter or not, it came back to us, I got it back Monday.
Okay, the second thing on the agenda is 31 Carrier Lane. We sent a letter out, and Wanda just said the letter came back, so we don't know if they got the letter or not. Is anyone here for 31 Carrier Lane? Okay. I guess we
So
will,
may have to discontinue that because,
It's a project update.
it's
You
a
need to-
project up, it's a,
yeah.
yeah, so we don't need to continue it, but you can put it on the next agenda,
Put it on the next agenda.
if you hear from them.
I'm just a little confused, is that the project update, or is this the one where you've got a garden shed that was built,
Yes,
Yes,
and it may not have a building permit or anything else? So I don't know, is that a project update, or is that something else?
well,
I put it as a project update because the project's already been open. And the order conditions, I believe, have already been issued. So they need to come in and explain the rest of the work that was done.
right.
So I can put it on the next agenda at 7:00 on December 19th. We can continue it to then.
Just a question, I think, is Bob wondering, how come he hasn't responded, or hasn't responded? Wasn't, so we questioned that he did work, and We were supposed to
What
send the
happened is
letter.
when I mailed the letter out, it
Yep.
went to the address and not a post office box, because I was unaware that he had a post office box.
Oh.
He came back Monday, after all that time.
So we
Understand
send the
now.
letter.
Yeah.
I resent the letter.
Perfect.
So, yeah, it should be continued and not just, I would think,
Mhm.
rather than just.
Yep.
Right. All right,
Okay, this one
this is
here,
31 Carrier.
Margaret Bacon has asked that 23 Tucker Lane be tabled to 8:45, the other open area. So if you want to table that,
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of 23 Tucker Lane
Second?
and
All those in favor?
Aye.
make a motion to table 23 Tucker Lane until 8:45 PM.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
no, I gotta catch up.
All right, now we'll have to do some board business because the next thing on the agenda is at 7:30. How about the minutes of October 3rd, October 17th, and November 7th?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of October 3rd, October 17th, and November 7th, 2018.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We've got review the annual report on here.
I sent it out a couple of times. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at it. I changed all the numbers, it's just the body part of it that needs to be either added to or fixed or whatever you wanna do with
I
it.
kind of looked at it in passing, but I didn't really look at it in detail.
We can table that to the next meeting.
Okay, 61A land for 172 Mendon Road, George Kowzik. Is that here anywhere? Yeah, right here. It's 172 Mendon Road. They want partial land removal from Chapter 61A.
Yeah, you should have that one up there. It's just a little piece that he wants to take out of 61A. It should be, yeah, there's a.
Parcel further identified as 80,423 square feet, shown on, as parcel A on 172 Mendon Road.
Plan should be there. With the,
Is,
Is this just asking if we have any interest in it?
yeah. I don't think we have any interest in it, right?
Nope.
Nope.
Hard piece of land.
That's the seat, not me. I don't know why.
Okay, Wanda, here's this one.
you wanna do the Woody's Farm thing?
Sure.
I don't think I even wrote it on there.
Okay.
Randy just handed it to me. What it is it's in 61 A and B.
Good evening.
How are you?
Is that what he's here? I didn't even know he was gonna be there. Yeah, you surprised us.
So it's not on the agenda here anyway.
No, under,
Oh, at the bottom.
Business.
Okay.
So what I'm asking is advice. I talked to Brandon a few weeks ago about harvesting wood on this piece of parcel. There's some wetlands in it. It's 226 Putnam Hill Road, 44 Old Mill Road. I realize there's some wetlands. The maps that you have in front of you were created through the GIS system, DEP's wetlands, and I received them through NRCS and the whole docs. Correct. Okay? So, we'd like to do a clear-cut harvest of that timber. It's in 61A. It's my understanding of the 61A that that's an allowed action. The question, I guess, is Brandon had asked for a cutting plan. Sitting in the back row with me earlier is one of the contractors that I've talked to. He went forward to contact the state about getting a cutting plan and how he goes about doing that. Because it's a clear cut, we're not saving species of any kind, we're not impinging on the wetlands, and it's under 61A. The state says we don't need a cutting plan. It's actually not something that they're willing to sign.
Do you wanna contact Guy LaChance?
I'll let Nick, if you did contact Guy LaChance, right?
That is from Guy LaChance.
I don't know if you guys want it in writing from him. We've had a couple of phone conversations. I had called his office quite a while ago, kind of looking to see what the right procedure was. The NRCS office has offered, as they've done on some other farmland for us, to come out and, based on the map that's in front of you, mark a 100-foot buffer around the wetlands. That's a service that they offer to us.
That would be great.
So,
And if you can stay 100 feet off that wetland flag the NRCS does, you don't even need to come in here for anything. The only thing you have to do is make sure that any skid steers or other equipment that are in there don't make ruts so deep that they fill up with groundwater and create little streams that end up messing up the hydrology of the whole area.
okay. I had a conversation with Bob Taft. There is a wetlands that would need to be crossed. Our intent is to utilize the driveway that exists along that property line. Comes in. We would rebuild this kind of path through the field. In this corner, there's some ledge outcropping, which is why the field isn't square. It's a pretty hard surface and would like to use that as the landing for the operation. At some point, we either have to go out in the field or we have to cross the wetlands to get this material. Are we allowed to cross the wetlands, and if so, what's required?
You're allowed to do a temporary crossing for purposes of logging only. Can't be a permanent crossing when you're done.
Understood.
And you have to restore it back to the best you can, what it was when you were done.
So if we take the narrowest point there, that's okay to cross.
And you have to do it at a time where either the ground is frozen or it's dry in the summer, so you don't rut the place up. And any crossing you do, I recommend putting down some kind of corduroy,
Okay.
unless the commission has objections.
I'm just curious, what are you gonna do with it afterwards? You gonna make it into a field, or?
I don't know, for sure. Okay? This is a project that I came before the planning board earlier in season and then town meeting for solar. I said then, I need to get some income off of that property that's not producing anything for us now. I have that opportunity to create some income. What happens with it in the future, I don't know. A lot will determine on what we turn up and, you know, what it looks like. It's wooded now, I know we've walked it. There's places that could be field, there's places that would never be feasible. But I need to recover some income from that. So,
Thank you for explaining. I guess, you're pretty much,
I was telling Joyce that we don't have the forestry up here because it's way before I even started, so I will get the copies from the assessor's office, so for our files of all your forestry, and when it mails out all your cards, so.
it's under
Yeah, I
61A
know it is.
agriculture as,
I know it's but a dozen things.
yeah,
But I'll
I
make
think it's-
copies for our files up here,
Okay.
which I didn't have. I didn't realize that until.
Okay,
I
so-
put those on.
Nick is from NJR Land Clearing. He's a resident of the town. Fairly new business, but not by any stretch of the imagination a new operator. He's helped us get to where we are. I don't need to be dragged through the mud on anything else.
Well, Nick does nice work.
Okay. Thank you, I guess.
Do
And
we need anything on the record? Just
If
so anyone questions
If I
you?
could get an email or something that we had this conversation, I think it would be really good.
Probably-
Yes, it's on tape,
Just a
but
copy of the minutes, would that work for you?
I like to be prepared.
I don't blame
I
you.
don't blame you at all.
Okay.
I'm looking at this map here, and I get the contour map out.
Yep.
The white lines I see, it's a little more steep in that southwest corner where that outcropping is. You can almost see where the outcropping is over in here. That little knoll right there, a lot more gentle over in this area. So, I mean, I get a feeling that this area in the middle is gonna be out, you know, depending on how NRCS flags it. But, I mean, just based on the map, this whole area looks like it could be cut, this whole area looks like it could be cut, maybe even down into here a little, I don't know. Are you looking to do as much as you can, or are you focusing on a certain area?
Oh, Brandon, that map doesn't necessarily include that other piece he's talking about also.
Correct.
Oh, the piece way back here too?
This piece,
Let me move it.
so this is, this piece here, 44 Old Mill,
Mm-hmm.
it's got a 55 or 60 foot frontage. And I know when I was little, my dad logged off a bunch of this, and they used this area as a landing. And I remember going there one evening with some hay bales, because that was allowed then, walking up some water. And our intent is not to go and work off of Old Mill, but to stay 150 feet back from the edge of the road. There's not gonna be a lot of material there anyways. And yeah, there's, down through here, there's some steep and there's some ledge
Yeah,
as
you
well.
can see it, they're kinda tight, and it gets a little flatter up here.
I just have one question. Does he have to stay 100 feet away from all the wetlands and all the wetlands themselves? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
So, just a question, under a state forestry cutting plan, can't you go and actually cut right to the edge of the wetland? Would it
You could
allow
even
you
use
to
some
cut
cutting
more?
so
tree-
You can cut in
I'm
the
just
wetland.
asking,
Into
so
wetland.
if you can't go into all that land, but if you do this under a state cutting plan and don't clear cut, but take all the good trees, and it allows you to go all the way to the edge of the wetland, is that more attractive to you? Because I've seen what foresters do. I mean, they can go in and they take a lot of all the good wood. Just may give you more opportunities. And under a state cutting plan, you don't have to file a conservation, you're allowed to do X amount of things, the state forester goes through your land, right? I mean, it just may allow you some of the better trees. So if you're doing this for income, so if you're the cutter, sounds like you,
Yes and no. I
Okay.
don't think we wanna oppose any of the wetlands, especially being.
but it's not opposing, if you do it in the dry season, so Brandon gave you guidelines, and if you do it at the right times and you don't,
We'd like to do it over the winter.
right, then you could go in on a cutting plan and selectively take all the, call them the money trees is what they call them when I walked with the state forester, because that's what they're there for. You know, that's the whole idea of a cutting plan, and
The possible plan for expanding.
You gotta state your name and your address?
John Whittier, 150 Town Farm Road.
Well,
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
Most of the plan is to gain as much field as we can. If my dad agrees with this, cutting the wetlands, yes, it could be beneficial, but you're not gonna put a field in it anyways. So, at that point, you're gonna have to stay away, or else you're gonna lose equipment more than you need to when you get a field there, so.
He just wasn't sure what he was doing with it, so I thought it was for just generate some cash,
So-
and as long as you understand all those
I
different
wanna make
things.
sure I understand something Brandon mentioned. If NRCS flags 100 foot off the wetlands,
No, they would just flag the wetland themselves, and then you just have to measure yourself under. I don't see them doing that.
okay, it's my understanding when I had a conversation with NRCS that they would flag the wetlands and mark 100 foot outside.
That's
So that's the line that I'm proposing to cut up to.
amazing.
Okay? Thank you for the time.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for coming in, yes. Okay, 7:30 PM is 6 Burnap Road, and that is going to be continued because they're not through planning board yet.
So make a motion to continue to January 19th at 7:15 PM?
Is that right, Wanda?
Is it January or December 19th, Wanda?
January.
January 19th at 7:15.
January 9th.
9th, sorry.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now we have another 15 minutes to kill, I guess. Let's see, where are we now? Down at the bottom of the list. 10 Partridge Hill Road. I think we're all set on 10 Partridge Hill Road. That was the one that we went down to, Leland Hill, Jones,
Oh, okay.
Janice.
Yeah.
And she had moved the markers where they were supposed to be and sent pictures where Mr. John Burns had put them on a metal post. So I think that's all set.
Did she readjust her fence?
Yes, she did.
So the back is now fenced in again?
Uh, that was what she intended to do, yes.
No, she wanted to close out her order of conditions.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not just,
Right.
she did, it's a case of closing out her order of conditions for her,
Well,
right?
there was an
Yes.
enforcement order too, wasn't there?
Yes,
So then you might wanna think about voting to lift the enforcement order. And there was also a certificate of
right,
compliance.
right.
So you can do two birds in one stone if you want.
Make a motion to lift the
Enforcement order.
enforcement order on 10 Partridge Hill Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 10 Partridge Hill Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Partial.
I think is everything done?
I suggest a complete because he's
Yes.
requesting a complete.
Complete certificate of compliance.
Okay,
Hold on a second.
Andy.
Here's your paper to sign for your certificate.
Is there more from that development that need to be done?
Yeah, the
Hmm,
road and
Oh, that's right, the
stormwater
road.
infrastructure.
Are there a couple homes still that are not signed off?
On Hunter's Court, there are some that aren't signed off.
Is that all the way at the end?
Yeah, it's a little side cul-de-sac. There's still
Grab your paper.
some construction phase down there.
Okay, 26 Mallard Way, I don't think the site visit has been done yet. And we can't do the island until the water goes down. 2 Lakeview Circle is a very old file, and it's a subdivision, most of which is in Northbridge. And how old is that file, Wanda, do you know?
It's
Because-
before me, so it's before 2000.
So it's before 2000?
So the request is to just, maybe just do the order of conditions, because I mean the certificate, because the rest of it's been done.
It's called, what, Lakeview Circle?
Late, it's, no, it's Castle Hill,
Castle Hill.
Realty subdivision.
2 Lakeview Circle.
I have the file if you wanna look at it.
Well, what were they supposed to do, and did they?
Well, they had an
Apparently
order of
The house was
conditions.
sold, it was the house that Reverend Bromwell lived in, and it was sold, and they're just asking for a certificate of compliance.
So where is Lakeview Circle?
Lake
It's-
Dam,
Lucky Dam area?
Dam Road.
Yeah.
Off Lake Dam Road. I have the paperwork here from Gary and Helen. It's a very old
Oh,
file,
this
which
Lakeview,
we are
that's
running
cul-de-sac.
into, having a lot of.
What number?
Two Lakeview Drive, Lakeview Circle.
That's like
I
right on the
can
line.
read this letter if you'd like. It says, "To whom it may concern, on Tuesday, September 11th, 2018, I performed a site visit at 2 Lakeview Circle in Sutton, Mass. To determine compliance with the orders of conditions issued by the Sutton Conservation Commission. Commission's orders were issued in January of 1989. The commission also issued a partial certificate of compliance for the site in April 92. The certificate of compliance states that work related to Lot 8 as shown on a plan, Clover Hill West, dated October 14th, 1988, recorded in the Worcester District Registry of Deeds, has been satisfactorily completed. There is also a handwritten note that reads, "Bank to the rear of the house remains to be stabilized." I would guess it's stabilized since 1989. During my visit to the property, as you would expect, I did not see any evidence of unstable bank on the site. All slopes that could be considered bank to the rear of the house are either grassed as lawn or otherwise vegetated and in a state that I would certainly consider stable. Overall, in our opinion, the site has been constructed in substantial compliance with the approvals and conditions listed above. Signed, Ronald Tubman, Land Surveyor.
Make a motion to issue a complete certificate of compliance for 2 Lakeview Circle.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have a slip to sign for that one, Wanda? Okay. I need to be tired so I can see what's on the top here.
Get your chair with a, we could use, well,
some
we don't wanna,
cushions.
we got enough new stuff in Sutton right now. We won't ask for new chairs someday.
Selectmen have nice chairs.
Should run.
Not me, you.
I believe some of the rest of these site visits haven't been done yet. Bronson's 9 Linda Circle still needs to be done.
Where is Linda
Off Pierce
Circle? That's a low number too,
Off Pierce
438.
Road, off Central Turnpike.
Leland Hill Road, John Burns, he's coming in with the subdivision.
Yeah, I have the paperwork for that 101 Leland Hill. That's for the roadway certificate.
For tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You want the paperwork for that?
I think we've got 5 minutes to kill, so we can do that.
Yeah, this goes with the other one. What'd you do with Lakeview?
They received an as-built from Allen Engineering with a request for the certificate of compliance. So have you received that as-built, Brandon, for the road?
Yeah, I have it, right here. The well and replication areas are fine. The roads I've driven down it dozens of times. Stormwater basins are in, stable, working. The last thing that they did on the fly, because the design flaw, has to do with that crossing over the BVW. Whereas the road slopes down makes a low point in the middle of that crossing, which means that water pools up in that crossing area with the retaining walls, which the building inspector deemed to be unsafe. So they came up with a plan to create a scupper on the side of the road and put some riprap at the bottom of the wall, which is technically in the BBW, so the water can escape instead of pooling up in the road. That work has been completed. It was never on the plan, and I don't know if there's any other solution except raising up the road so it, the water sheds back towards the stormwater basin, but I don't see that ever happening. So it's a bit of a quandary, but it's done.
Does it need to be on a plan somewhere so that anyone knows what was done?
It's not on this plan, so I'd see that as like, that would be a good minimum recommendation for them. I know you don't like it.
Bob?
I don't like it, no. I don't like it on the plan.
You don't want it to be on a plan?
He wouldn't like it if it was in the plan, he wouldn't like it if it was in a box or with a fox.
Dr. Seuss.
Mike?
See conflicts from other boards, because I did a lot on that, and I have struggled with those bridges on another board for quite some years, so to find out there's yet more problems with them. I don't know what Bob's getting at, but a puddle in the middle of a bridge isn't not
No,
a,
what we're doing is by putting it on the drawing and sanctioning it, we're allowing, setting a precedent where you can put untreated water directly into a
yeah.
wetlands. And that's something that goes against not only our bylaws, but the DEP and everything else that goes along with it. So for this board to sanction, particularly on a drawing, that type of behavior, I don't know if it's a wise thing to do.
I agree with Bob then.
Makes sense.
Saying it
Yeah.
that way.
The question is
What do we do?
what do you do, what's the remedy?
Did the building inspector say that that repair was okay?
He said it was necessary.
He said it's safe now?
I don't know if
Because he
said
deemed
it's
it
safe,
unsafe.
but that was the remedy to the situation of the water ponding in the road. And then, you know, the issue, not so much the ponding, but the icing up in the winter time, especially with, you know, it's like a 10, 15-foot drop on either side, straight down. There's guardrails, but still, it's a dangerous situation, so they
That
just.
bit down there.
So,
Yep.
so the things I know about this bridge is that when it was originally built, it was for a gated community that the town wasn't gonna accept as a road. So this whole, getting all these things releases leading to the town accepting this as town roads. So if there's no engineering on this, and it's yet another thing that's going on with these bridges, because there's been questions of the integrity of the block and how it was done, because there was no inspections performed, I can go on and on and on. I know a lot about the project. So, if we're not willing to put it on a plan, this has to get accepted by the town as a road. If there was a problem with these bridges and it wasn't engineered correctly, the solution, and we're willing to just sign off on it, I don't know, I'm confused.
That
Meaning,
part of it's
shouldn't an
not-
engineer come in and at least, shouldn't somebody be saying what they, I just think it's bigger than you think, in the sense that if they had a problem with the bridge and the solution isn't done correctly.
I agree with you, Mike, but that stuff's not part of our board. We're just
Well,
worried
no,
about the
if there's a
stormwater.
puddle and
Yeah.
we're putting
Right,
water
right.
into the
That
wetlands
part
because
is-
the bridge
yeah.
failed,
That's
that's what's happening, so the bridge failed, there's a big puddle. So I think what Brandon's saying is they just made swales that allow the water to go right over the bridge and down into the wetlands.
They made an opening in a little scupper area that.
So is that an engineer, go there and look at those bridges, they're 30 feet tall.
So the
Made a
problem
block.
was that it was, they went bankrupt and another outfit took over, and so it's
Changed the
kind of
use
a,
of it, and it became houses, not a 55 and older project, and, which is great, and it's just, those bridges have always been a concern of the construction of them.
Do you
When
wanna
I-
bring them in, or?
Well, I just would rely to Brandon to what he thinks is best. If the fix is the only solution and that's the best, then that sounds the right answer. If it's not,
The only solution, reasonable solution, would be to raise the road up which would mean putting more block,
Yeah.
which, so the water sheds back towards the basin, as opposed to, because it curves, you know, there's a little dip in the middle, which, so there's a section of the road between the part where what you're calling the bridge starts and ends, it goes down like this, so that section goes down the middle, and the sections that are beyond it, they shed somewhere into the basin. So there's that spot area that just pulls down at the bottom.
Sounds like it's a Band-Aid, and then it's gonna be a town road, and then it's gonna
Right.
fall on the taxpayers
Maybe
to
we can
fix
get
it.
some other
So my only
input
question
here.
would be, if there's been engineering done on this, which that's what I'll call it,
I don't know if there's, I really don't even know if there's been engineering. If there is, it's probably with the building department.
is it acceptable or not?
This was a solution that I think John Birds and John Kuchar and maybe an engineer worked out as an on-the-fly fix, which is kinda like a Band-Aid. But I don't know what the solution is besides that.
Water quality structure, direct discharge, water quality structure,
Mhm.
one possible
One of the
solution.
things we talked about was putting some kind of deep sump in, under the road right there. But the problem is the block has the,
Geofabric.
yeah, the fabric that comes in, so that would mess with the integrity of the wall, so you can't dig to have infiltration underneath the road.
You
so-
can do it, it's just costly, expensive, difficult.
Right.
You cut the geofabric and wrap it around the structure as you go down, and you'd have to increase the length of it at times, but it's an engineering feat.
Mr. Stencil, can you enlighten us with any of this?
Not really. I was shown the fix. And that's, like Brandon said, that's the best they could come up with. It wasn't built properly, and it'd be a huge expense to go rebuild it properly, I guess, so that's the only fix that they could come up with, so that's what they did.
Do you feel comfortable with your equipment maintaining that road?
That's a longer story that I'm not willing to talk about tonight.
I personally, you know, I don't know anything about this project because it was all prior to me, so
Me too.
I think maybe we need to have them come in and explain what's going on before we sign off on something.
If Mr. Stencil's not comfortable answering that question, I'm not comfortable signing off on it, so.
Well, it's not because of the drainage. I mean, the whole entire bridge, I'm not
Right,
crazy about.
so that's a problem, so.
Yeah.
So our jurisdiction is, because the uncaptured water and they're just discharging it
Right,
off
so
the
what's
side.
happening is they're discharging untreated water directly into a wetland, which is not allowed.
So if I was to get the plans on how to construct the bridge, that dip's probably not there. It goes back to, it wasn't inspected, it wasn't built correctly. So it's probably not an engineering flaw, it's a construction flaw. I don't wanna say that to be a fact.
And just like Joyce, I wasn't around for that one either.
So I guess if we were to ask a question, shouldn't the engineer tell us that the bridge was built either to the plans or not? Just to know? And then if
Yes.
they weren't, and the puddle's there because it wasn't constructed correctly, is it fair for us to say, okay, you can just discharge it off the side?
Right.
Or do we at least have you give us some more advice on maybe what would be the correct?
Yeah, and I think that having John Burns, perhaps his engineer, come in, explain what the story is, would be the proper thing before you make a decision.
Still need a letter from his engineer anyway, don't we?
I know there's been a structural engineer that certified that at least the block was structurally safe, I believe. The zoning board of appeals hired an independent engineer to work with John Kuchar to at least so there's some information about the bridge to try to document what was there, that it was, I don't know if done correctly or, you know, that it was safe and it wouldn't.
And I met on site with John Kuchar, trying to figure out what the solution was, and I was saying to him, well, can we have some kind of infiltration structure? And that's when he mentioned no, because it's gonna impact the integrity of the wall.
Which
And
make,
his idea was to create a lip, so that when the water does go out, it doesn't fall down on the brick, trickle down the brick, because that's gonna
deteriorate the,
deteriorate the brick. So he wanted a lip, so that the water comes out a foot or two, so it drops down directly into the wetland instead of touching the wall. And at the bottom was gonna be stone that'll help dissipate the water instead of, creating erosion.
is that what's there today?
Yeah.
Does it work?
I haven't heard anybody complain.
Does it meet DEP standards?
It doesn't.
I can't rewrite the DEP standards, I'm sorry. And I can't sanction, personally, as a member of the board, I can't sanction anything that doesn't meet the DEP standards. I don't think that's our bailiwick to rewrite them.
When the road right there was built, it was the same standards we have today, which means that there was supposed to be no untreated water going into the wetland. I don't even think it was a situation where it's like maximum extent feasible, because it's a brand new road. I think there was an existing cart path there before, but they significantly improved it, obviously. So I think that they would have been held to the highest standard of cleanliness for the water standards.
How do you see it's down front here?
Well, let me just ask these people if they're here for Burnap Road.
Yes.
If you're here from Burnap Road, it is continued to January 9th.
No, we are. No, we're not
Armsby,
doing
Armsby,
I mean,
Right.
hmm?
127 Armsby was on the agenda.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
okay.
is.
For the culvert?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right, so I guess we're
Mr. Burns
not,
and his engineer come in and explain it.
I agree.
Moving right along.
Big crowd here tonight.
I know. Must feel important.
745 West Sutton Road.
Make a motion to waive the reading of West Sutton Road.
Second.
Those in favor?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi, everyone. Ian Buttrick, Time Bond. So we have a file number now. I think it's 151-833.
Come in Thursday morning, the next day.
I think it was Friday morning, it was close.
Yeah, it was Friday morning.
Yep. Yeah. So, I think when I was last here, we started to talk about conditions and things. We have, I guess there are two little data points that I have since then. It's sort of, I guess serendipitous that maybe we didn't close that night, because one of the things was, I don't know if you've been out to the site lately, but things look a little different out there right now. It seems like there's no water getting out of the area upstream of Welsh Pond. Water's been flowing over the driveway at 124 West Sutton Road for, I don't know, a couple weeks now.
Mhm.
So I think so there was like a 2.5 foot difference in water surface elevation between that area and Welsh Pond. So I think that supports our theory that we've had, that the culverts below West Sutton Road have been blocked, or mostly blocked anyways. I think some water still gets through, but not a whole lot. So to me, that just underscores how much water is really just scooting down that ditch and not going into that pond at all. I think that if Lake Singletary Association members were here, I'd try to emphasize that this project would continue to be a benefit to water quality. The other data point that I have to add to the discussion is one that was known to us before. It came up during the MIPA meeting 2 years ago. But in Adams Pond, there is a rare plant called Vasey's pondweed. Or at least it's been reported in the past. We think we know where it is located, or at least where it was identified previously. We think that there's very little chance that it could have been an inaccurate reporting, actually. And it's very unlikely to be in the part of the pond where we're proposing the dry hydrant. But regardless, we're being asked to perform a plant survey, which has to happen in June, I guess, is the month that they've said we should do it. So that complicates our schedule relative to the dry hydrant installation that we were going to do. So, we were getting ready to bring a notice of intent for that, but then if we submitted that and opened that hearing, then it would have to wait until that rare plant survey was completed to get that bit of the project tied up. So we still fully intend to do that dry hydrant work, and I think it's a very low chance that that plant is present and would interfere with our plans to do that. But just because there's the potential, there's like the risk that, after all this talking we've been doing, that what we want to do for the town is mitigation, that it may not be able to happen. We've come up with a plan B, and that would be, we picked a spot for the dry hydrant that's down close to where Adams Pond Dam is. But if we find the plant in that area, then we would move the hydrant basically anywhere along that section of West Sutton Road where conditions are pretty similar. And then a plan C, if that doesn't work, which would be to go to Schoolhouse Pond and put the dry hydrant there instead of in Adams Pond. And that's sort of less ideal because long-term, we've been looking at removing Schoolhouse Pond also sometime down the line. So I think in order to do that, we would probably end up excavating a low spot to serve as a fire pond for when that dam was removed. But so the reason I'm telling you this is because we still hope to be able to start on the dam removals and the culvert replacements this spring to be able to take care of, now we have a new issue out there that, will be addressed by this project, although it's not on Mass Wildlife's property, but it certainly does benefit the town and it benefits that property owner there. So we'd like to be able to get started, and we were hoping that if you conditioned this project on the installation of a dry hydrant, that you would give us, a certain period of time in order to get that sorted out, with the understanding that if there was a need for water, like in that interim period, there's still Schoolhouse Pond available, which we understand the fire department does, have the capability and, uses to draw from now, as well as there's at least one or two dry hydrants along, I forget the name of the road, but as you go further to the north along Lake Singletary, there's other spots there, as well as over at Ram's Horn Pond in Millbury. So, I think we'd be looking at doing that vegetation survey in June, probably having everything ready to go before then in terms of having submitted the notice of intent to you and everything, and then do that dry hydrant construction probably in the late summer. So that's our plan for that.
Okay, Brandon, you have any comments?
What's that plan again?
VASEY apostrophe S, basic pondweed. Yeah,
So it's a rare species.
it's a rare species.
And you would have to look at what Putnam and Welsh ponds?
It's just an Adams Pond, actually.
But-
So, it's not, in order to do the dry hydrant at Adams Pond to mitigate for
right.
the removal of Welsh and Putnam ponds. It's a little hiccup in the plan.
Be very embarrassing if the
Um,
division were to kill an endangered species as part of our project, so we're
Yes.
being overly cautious.
Right.
There's almost no chance that this plant is in the area that we intend to put the dry hydrant in, but we just have to go through all of the motions, because it would not be
Gotcha.
a good thing for us to squash the plant.
So you're saying you're not gonna start work until this survey has been done, but it's in a pond that you're not even touching?
In the dry hydrant, they're not gonna
Yeah.
do work on the dry hydrant, only the dry hydrant till after the survey.
Yep, so our hope would be to begin the dam removals this spring, and then, once we can search for the pondweed, and then provide the dry hydrant as mitigation once that is all straightened out. And I think, given that, it sounds like I don't know if June is just the earliest we can do it, or if that's like the only time you can look.
I guess
but-
the earliest.
The earliest, okay, yeah. So I think if this had come up last fall or when we first started this process, it would have been the same. We still wouldn't have been able to be more definitive on it.
So you wouldn't be filing the NOI for the dry hydrants until you figure out if the plant is there?
Well, yeah, I mean, just so that you don't, we don't have an open item on the agenda forever and it just,
Right.
And
So
that kind of thing.
let's say you do find it, and because of that, this dry hydrant just can't be done in Adams Pond.
Mhm. So we'd survey that whole stretch. That's that entire stretch of West Sutton Road is what we're looking at. Our plan is to install the dry hydrant up in this area.
Yeah.
There's a nice spot that's like 35 feet between public shade trees there, so we wouldn't have to take down any large trees. And that's our preferred location for that reason. But if for some reason we found that we wouldn't be able to put it anywhere along that stretch, then we go to Schoolhouse Pond and put one along 8 Lots Road.
But didn't you say that you had a long-term plan of getting rid of the schoolhouse?
Right, so we would look at that, we'd excavate a low spot so that that dry hydrant would still have a water supply once that was removed.
Okay.
But, and even then, I'm not sure how far off on our long-term plan doing work at Schoolhouse is. It's not one of the, immediate projects that we're looking at right now.
Okay, Andy? No?
The new
Okay,
Make a motion to
Close
close,
all that?
the
Oh.
audience.
okay, anybody from the public?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions for West Sutton Road, Hutchinson Road,
With special conditions.
with special conditions that the dry hydrant be done, I guess, as soon as possible. As soon as,
Well,
In the
this is gonna be
packet.
a separate NOI, right?
It's gonna be a separate NOI, yep.
Alright. Well,
Should be
sta-
done.
standard special conditions, and, I recommend a condition that a applicant submit a notice of intent for a dry hydrant as soon as possible.
with standard special conditions that the applicant supply an NOI with some information on the dry hydrant as soon as possible.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Thank you very much.
Opposed? No.
Thank you.
One no.
4-1. So, Bill made the motion. Who seconded?
I did.
Andy?
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you very
guys.
much. Thanks. A lot of things to be in touch on still, so we'll be looking
And
forward
we'll
to.
miss seeing you for a while.
Have a nice holiday.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, let's see.
You want to pass that around so it can be signed?
Yep.
New filing.
Get that.
What are we waiting for?
Have we got it to sign?
It was right here.
Okay, I didn't look underneath, it's my fault.
I didn't realize it until I looked.
You won't sign, right? Do you?
No, I don't sign it, right?
It's up to you, I guess.
I'm not signing that. Wonder if I get a nasty gram from Fish and Wildlife.
And the next thing on the agenda is 127 Armsby Road. Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 7th, 2017, at 8 PM at Sutton Town Hall, Forksbridge Road,
2018.
Sutton, Mass. It's December 5th instead of December 7th.
It's 2018.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. What did I
Wait,
say?
Is that how it was written?
That's what it was on this paper, yes.
What did I write, the 5th on there? I
No,
might-
the
I-
7th.
No, you had the 7th and it's the 5th. I'm thinking it's not Pearl Harbor Day. Purpose of this hearing is to review a request for determination of applicability submitted to the Conservation Commission by Town of Sutton Highway Department, Sutton, Mass. Project involves culvert removal, trout stream habitat improvement at the former Armsby Road, unnamed tributary to Cold Spring Brook, on map 18th, parcel 72, on 127 Armsby Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Actually, we're kind of naming this Glenn's Brook. Mr. Stunsel, would you like to explain what you want to do?
Sure. Oh, Glenn's coming tonight.
I'm surprised he's not here.
I thought he was gonna be here, so I don't have anything fancy for you, but essentially we're not on Armsby Road, on the cart road that's next to Armsby Road. There's a culvert that's failed. That cart road hasn't really been used in a long time. I know it hasn't been used the last few months because it's been closed. So we need to make a repair. I talked to Glenn, who's an expert on trout streams and conservation and things like that, and he told me we would be better off removing, instead of replacing the pipe for a road that doesn't get used or a cart path that doesn't get used, to just take it out and restore the stream bed. So that's our plan now, instead of restoring the culvert, like I say, that doesn't get used, so.
So they've restored trout stream from the pond in front of the motel, coming back up toward Armsby Road. So they've cleaned out all the brush and everything, and the trout are growing up there, and they think
Right,
it'll
this
be
this leads to that
a good, yes,
project.
right.
So is this on the gravel pit side?
It's on the side toward the motel, so if you're going,
Past Valancourt on the right.
By
Next to
the
the
cemetery.
Armsby Cemetery.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, just before the cemetery.
that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
so. That's,
I've seen the plan. It's okay with me, and I know that Glenn is gonna watch it like a hawk.
yeah, the culvert had partially collapsed, and it's filled with stones and stuff, and it needs to be opened up to have the water flowing through and the fish going through.
Right, well, now all kinds of different types of soil materials are getting in the water because of the collapse, so
Yeah.
they're making their way downstream, which we don't want, so
So
we'll
so
take
thi-
all those soils out, and the
Right.
gravel that's there, Glenn thinks is a fine stream bed, so we're basically just removing the pipe, sloping it back at a safe slope, a 4-to-1 slope, and
And that's it.
that's it, so like, that little drive-in section won't, occur, but like I say, it hasn't been used. If it wasn't for the failed culvert, you really couldn't go through there because of the branches coming through. Because like I said, nobody's maintained it, it's only one car wide, and there's no real need for it to be there that I can find, so it's better, a little bit easier for us than replacing the pipe and refilling it to just leave the pipe out of it.
That doesn't need to be accessed with any proposed development over there in the future, right?
No, they wouldn't be able to come
They-
over anyway, it's only barely wide enough for a
Wide,
car,
yeah.
so they would have to either improve it or, change it or go the other way. I mean, how we access the cemetery now, or any visitors, I guess, is further up.
Yeah,
And you can
main,
access the
more of the
cemetery,
main entrance.
and then there's a gated, fire road, whatever it is, for a project there, and that goes the other way too. They, like I say, I haven't got one call about the road being closed in 3 months it's been closed, so.
Andy?
Yeah, I have no issue with it.
No issue.
Bob?
Didn't know if it's just something, should be boulders or something to, if anybody was to drive down the road from going into it?
Yeah, we can block it, you know, we'll probably block it, like say with some boulders or something, just in case somebody that remembered it was there or whatever, you know, start, for whatever reason.
You know, four-wheeler or anything going down, I mean, I just.
Yeah, it's going back 4 to 1, so I think it's going back 16 feet or more, so it'll be pretty wide area of, I think we're just planting some special grass in there. It should be pretty visible, but certainly right away, we'll put some cones and stuff, and we can leave it blocked permanently, you know, if there's a concern for, like, say, somebody getting off track and.
So is the intent to have a 4 to 1 slope? If you saw the
Yeah, I
plans.
don't have the plan in my hands, but
Yeah.
that's, I believe that's what it is, it's 4 to 1, so it's gonna cut back a little bit.
So, I got it here digitally. Work description, proposed site grading. So. This is a washout area, this is existing conditions, and then we go over to proposed conditions, and here you go. There's the grading.
Who did the engineering on it? Did Glenn do it?
No, we had somebody else help us
Okay.
too. I can't think of his name right now, but.
Okay.
There was
Existing grade,
Should be on those plans right there.
Douglas.
Okay.
For client, Glenn Kravosky.
Yeah.
He is passionate about that.
He is so, it's
It's good.
uncanny.
It's good.
Yeah, Glenn didn't charge me anything for all his work. And he's gonna oversee the construction too.
Yeah, he's
That's good.
really serious about trout streams.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen anything like it, but good for him.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone from the audience?
I just have a question. Who owns that property?
Would you state your name and your address?
John Trabert, 19 Fairway View Drive. Who owns that particular parcel of land?
The town owns the whole section there.
They bought that from
No,
Mingola?
it was a town road.
No, it's part of the town road. It actually, that section, I guess, was the town road at
It
one
was,
point,
yeah.
that little cutover.
Okay.
And then, maybe because of the cemetery or the turns, somebody else decided to straighten Armsy Road, and
Mm-hmm.
so that section was abandoned.
The town decided to straighten Almsby Road.
Yeah.
I remember it, I'm that old.
So that cut off and stuff in front of that area in front of the cemetery, that was all town property.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Aaron Trinchick, 122 Armsby Road. Is it gonna cause maybe washouts because it's not contained now? Is there gonna be water flowing through, or is it, that's all gonna just be the same flow? We don't have to worry about the.
No, well, it'll be better. It's restricted now to a collapsed pipe, but even if the pipe wasn't collapsed and it was
Okay,
24-inch pipe or whatever we would put in there, it'd be restricted to 24 inches. We're gonna open the,
okay.
We're
I just
gonna
didn't know if
open it
there's
up.
gonna be water coming down, obviously, now that it's opened a wider there too.
no, I mean, it'll take, well, it's it's restricted of the pipe that's under Armsby Road is a certain size. So that's what feeds that.
Okay.
But there won't be a pipe, so whatever that feeds, this
Sure.
can take it.
Is
So-
there a timeframe too as far as shutting the road down? Is that section of Armsby gonna be closed, or?
It's not a section of Armsby, it's
No,
old
I know what the
Armsby.
cutoff is, but I'm saying, I didn't know if there's gonna be any construction vehicles to shut down.
Oh, no, I don't think we'd have to close down Armsby at any
Okay.
point to do this. We should be all off the road.
Okay.
I mean, very temporarily, 30 seconds
Sure,
before you
sure.
pull a
Yeah.
truck in or something, but
Okay.
we shouldn't have to close Armsby at all.
Anyone else?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions for 120.
No, it's a determination.
Termination.
Make a motion to issue a
Negative.
negative determination for 127 Armsby Road.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Glad everyone's awake to pick up on that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Glenn will be happy.
Got a lot of people out, though.
Now, the sign sheet is on.
Yes, underneath. Today is the 5th.
I would not have expected that many people.
Yeah, that's an abandoned road, isn't it?
It's not.
Well, no, not anymore. Well, John Burns has his development up there, and there's a lot of runoff coming down from that hill, and then that whole culvert area. With all the rain we've had, the biggest concern is, you know, that pond that's on the left-hand side of that road is starting to reach its brim, and that could easily wash out that whole area if that culvert is not fixed.
You good?
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Right on time. Look at that. Are we?
Wow. I didn't bring my pillows.
Okay.
Which one's this?
This is, Hornsby Road. 15, what do we got?
Okay, we have a filing for 176 Manchog Road. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 5th at 2018 at 8:15 at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxford Road, Sutton, Mass. Purpose of this hearing is to review a request for a determination of applicability submitted to the Conservation by Brenda Stasinski, Walpole, Mass. Project consists of taking down 2 dead spruce trees and 1 hemlock tree on map 42, parcel 17, on 176 Manchog Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Good evening. Sorry if I mispronounced your name.
No, you did very good with the name. It's misspelled in there, but you pronounced it well.
So even better for being misspelled.
Haven't ever done this before, so be with me. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to tell you or ask you or.
I'll just describe your project and,
We just purchased the house in September, so it's on Lake Manchog, and there's 2 trees that are dead on there and 1 that we're told is dying. They've circled the part of it, I guess, from the inside. It's not doing so well, and so we want to take that down. And the insurance company has also asked us to take the dead ones down. We will be, at some point in time, we're meeting with the engineer because we know that we're going to have to do something with the septic system. The septic failed. So we'll know eventually those 2 dead ones are definitely have to come down, and the other ones. So we're asking that we take them down, and then in the spring we'd like to take them down before winter comes. It's a second home to us, and it just gives us a little bit more secure feeling that the dead trees aren't there, or the dying one. And we can replace trees in the spring, plant once we find out exactly what we're doing and get approvals for and stuff for the septic system replacement.
okay, so you don't want to take the trees down till the spring, probably, you said?
No, I'd like to,
No.
we'd like to take them down before winter sets in.
Okay,
And then replace trees. We will plant something different, or plant something and replacement trees in the spring.
right, we need to have native trees. They can't be ornamental, they have to be native, 2.5-inch caliper.
Okay,
And so we'd like a little sketch plan of where you want to put them
okay.
and in the species that you want to put down. Wanda just told me there's a $25 fee that's owed for the bylaw
I
fee.
brought the checkbook. I
Okay.
think that was what we didn't know, I didn't
Right.
know about before, so. I have that, and I also have, I think I'm supposed to be giving you the mailing thing, so I will do that.
Okay. So we need a sketch with where the trees are gonna go, as close to the water as possible.
Okay,
You know, because then it gives shade to the water and helps to control the temperature of the water.
okay. Do we need, do you need that before we get approval to take the trees down?
I was just gonna, if I may, like, where the weather can change overnight, and we don't meet for another couple weeks at Christmas and everything, speaking for myself, I personally wouldn't have a problem if you took them down, because you're gonna be at the mercy of the weather and a tree company. With the agreement that we got a sketch and that you do replant the 3 trees in the spring when the weather cooperates.
And let us know when you plant them so we can go out and check it off.
Absolutely.
So
Is there a specific list of native trees? I mean, I don't know.
If you give,
Exactly what's
if
needed.
Wanda has your email, she has a list that
Oh,
she could
okay.
email you.
And the trees.
I have on that list that I gave.
I can,
yeah.
well, I can look, I can Google it, right?
Yeah.
Be
Native
like
trees in Massachusetts?
Yeah.
maple
Oh,
trees or oaks or
absolutely.
pine,
Oh,
not
okay.
not like a dogwood or something, right?
Well, there are native dogwoods, but
Arches. Do you have a plot plan, which in that folder?
Do I have what?
A plot plan that shows the house and the lake and all?
No, I don't. I didn't bring that.
Joyce, do you want a letter
It's
of
not
a
interest?
plot plan
Yes.
to begin with.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there isn't a plot plan. The house, I guess, when it was, had the same owners up until the point that we bought it. And we went to get a plot plan, but it's just a square box. And it says 50 feet road frontage, 50 feet lake frontage, and down, that's it.
If you go on the town's website, you could print out like that
came
image.
from the town.
Okay.
That came from the town.
Just
to get
just
it.
draw them on that. That's-
Right, so I was
Oh,
getting
I'll
at, is
take
if you
that
had
and
that
draw
with
it.
you,
Yeah.
we could draw the trees on, and then we'd have a little
okay.
plan.
Yeah, you don't have to go do anything
And-
fancy.
Okay. So can I bring them
did
to?
you have a letter from an arborist saying that those needed to come
Yes.
down? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
In
it
that
is.
case, I have that.
Yeah, I'm with Bill on that. I have no problem.
So I see 3 conditions. The first is produce a sketch within 21 days.
Okay.
Number 2 is replant with native trees, 2.5-inch caliper in size. And then contact the Concom once they're installed for an inspection,
Okay.
final inspection, just to like.
So next
Trust it
spring,
for
when we
next
plant,
spring.
actually do the planting, sure.
However, if you're gonna do a septic, you might wanna do the septic before you do the plantings.
We would, but if you
Yeah.
want, the septic's gonna be up by the road.
Okay,
It'll
so it
be
won't be,
tight, take the septic,
won't
and the
interfere.
trees you want down by the lake.
Yes.
Okay.
Make a motion to issue a negative determination for 176 Manchog Road.
Second?
How about close the public hearing?
I want to make a motion to close the public hearing of 176 Manchog Road first.
Second.
All those
I
in
had
favor?
one question.
Aye.
Mhm.
The stumps, but you're just gonna leave stumps in the ground, right?
No, I'd like to, I'm not sure yet. I think it's gonna depend upon, where we're putting the septic or the tight tank or whatever it ends up being. So, other than that, I'd leave them there if I don't have to take them out to put
Well,
septic.
Or you'd grind them down, you
Yeah.
wouldn't like have a machine come and just want to make sure that
There's not
taking
enough
it.
room to put machines and pull everything out of there.
That was my only
so,
question.
Yeah.
Make
Okay.
a motion to issue a negative determination for 176 Manchog Road with a basic sketch in 21 days, 3 native trees of 2.5-inch caliber. One, can get you the list, and just contact us in the spring when they're planted.
Second.
Thank you so much.
And where did the
Bring me
native
the
trees
plan
come
and I
from?
can
By
scan it
nursery?
in.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Before we get
You
lost?
can bring me the plan and I'll scan it in.
The
And
2.5
you want
inches.
these, and I'll bring
Yeah.
you the
They
plan,
tend to be
I'll
4
give
to
you a
6
check,
feet
can I give
high.
you a check now?
4 to 6 feet high? Okay.
I did write the check up, just out to the town
Tom
sign.
something.
Now's a good time of year to buy them too, at some of the big stores.
Oh, it is?
To
Okay.
do a what?
Keep them.
Buy the trees now.
They're about a quarter of the price now.
And you don't have, what would you?
Keep them in the pot.
over
There's some, they come in, the ones I bought came in burlap, but some of them come potted.
Oh, okay. Good
And they
idea.
have to be 4 to 6 foot high.
No.
Off the ground? or
2.5
from the-
caliper
Above the
around.
burlap,
Above the.
above the ball,
Okay.
root ball, rather.
We have to read in the new one, but they've continued.
Which one continued? The 8:30 continued?
Did you sign that?
Thank you. I don't know. Not used to the clipboards here. Do we have a plan to sign for Mr. Mosier that we didn't sign the last time?
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice Christmas.
It should be there, and the orange envelope.
Make sure it's the right one here. Okay.
What you lose?
I'll sign this. Okay, we had a question about possibly moving our meetings to 6:30 instead of 7. We used to do that, and then somebody couldn't get here, so does anyone have any opinion on whether we should start at 6:30?
I'll stay at 7. I'll have to figure out how we change that. I think we can just change it. It's up to you guys. You wanna stay at 7, that's fine.
6:30 works for me.
Fine with me.
6:30 work for you?
Yes.
6:30 works this time of year, but I don't know how you're gonna feel about 6:30.
In the summer, yeah.
It's July, August, September, October, November, or October. That's all. And I don't think we're doing something here that you're gonna switch back and forth every 6
No.
months. So whatever you agree on, it's even in the summertime when you gotta leave the lake at 6 o'clock to get here for 6:30.
Well, it doesn't matter if it's 6 or 6:30, I don't think, but anyway.
Well, the
Then you
sun
get home
goes-
early.
The sun goes to bed at 7.
Barely made it here tonight.
You barely made it here tonight.
Well,
So
I
you'd like
can't
to
show
leave?
up in my work attire, which is a baseball hat and dirty clothes, so I have to have time
I
to.
do.
Well, it's something
I'm
to,
reprimanded
it's
for it
something to
once.
think about.
Get dirt on my ball cap tonight.
Yeah.
We used to start at 6:30 when I first started, so it's something to think about, and if anyone wants to
Back
change it.
then, we did have a lot of filings, so that's why we moved it to the 6:30.
As long as we don't add to the length of the night just because we start an extra half an hour early.
Oh, well, theoretically, if you start a half hour early, you
Could end
leave
the
at
half-
the,
That's right.
yeah.
I don't have a preference. It's fine with me. 6:30 or 7, either one would work.
Do you wanna stay at 7 until we figure out if we're gonna have?
Well, why don't we,
something like
why don't
this
we
again?
just think about it a little bit, and then we can vote, and maybe if we change it, we change it the first part of the year.
Didn't everybody agree to it? No?
No, I agree. Let's just see, because now I'll pay attention to, because like I literally just barely made it here
Okay.
tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't do it to the first of the year,
Okay.
probably anyway,
Sure.
right?
Okay, it is 8:30. So we need to make this in. 285 Putnam Hill Road, the Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 7th? November 7th? Should this be, this is new tonight, right? So it should be December 5th.
No, oh, wait a minute, yeah, this is a new filing. Yeah, you're right, December.
At 7 PM at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Exford Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Gianni Romeo, Sutton, Mass. Project consists of construction of a single-family residence with associated site work on map 42, parcel 96, on 285 Putnam Hill Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Is anyone here for Mr. Gianni?
Yes, yes.
Romeo?
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Nick Kondak. I'm from Summit Engineering. We're the representative for Gianni. Unfortunately, tonight, we might have to continue this because the engineer who was in charge of this project he didn't know that Sutton, he thought that Sutton sent out their own mailings for the abutter notification, so. And then he couldn't make it tonight, and they kind of threw me on this, and then I was looking at it today, and I didn't have any certified mailing
Well, this
receipts.
would be a good time to go through your checklist.
Yes.
So,
So we do not have abutters notifications. Do you have any other applications with any boards pending, like Board of Health and Planning and Appeal Board?
I don't believe so. I know we still have to submit the septic,
That would be the Board of Health.
okay, to the Board of Health. We did submit it to Jim Malley because last week, RPE, he was out the whole week, so we weren't able to get a wet stamp for the Board of Health. So we talked to Jim, and we sent it to him, and then I have all the plans with me tonight. I don't think I can submit them tonight, but we can, tomorrow or Friday.
Just keep in mind that they need to be submitted a week before the meeting, or
Okay.
you'll have to be out another week.
Okay, yeah.
So-
Wanda, did you put out the legal ad?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure.
Okay, when would you like to continue to?
As soon as possible.
Make a motion to continue to Wednesday, December 19th
At 7:30.
at 7:30.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Oh, no, 8:45. Oh, no, but we,
Well, she's
we,
here, so it was
we,
tabled, so
yes,
you're
we
able
had
to-
tabled it, so we don't have to wait till 8:45.
Let me just give you the- I just need this sheet.
Remember, I didn't put continue to on there, but you can. Okay, this is 23 Tucker Lane, continued from previously. You want to waive the,
Make a motion to waive the reading of 23 Tucker Lane.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good evening.
Margaret Bacon, Civil Site Engineering. And I think, the only thing we were waiting for is Board of Health approval for the septic repair at 23 Tucker Lane, which they did approve. We had a meeting November 27th, and I have a letter here from Judy, or an email from Judy Bader stating the board voted to grant the following. Replace existing septic system with the Presby as shown with the two waivers I requested, one waiver to the garage slab and one waiver to the property line.
Okay, that's what I had in my notes too, that they were two waivers, so
Yeah.
those are all approved. Brandon, you have anything?
So, have any changes been made to the plans since last time you were here?
No?
So I have, just the October 1, 2018.
Yeah, no revisions.
Revision.
Yeah, no
Did that do
revisions.
good?
Yeah.
All right, Andy?
I have nothing.
Good.
Bob?
The motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions for 23 Tucker Lane.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Why, do you want this letter, email from Judy?
Margaret, we're all very sorry for your loss, too.
Oh, thank you, yeah. My meeting man, I miss him already.
I'm
Good
sure
guy.
you do,
Yeah,
yes.
he was.
Good man.
I sent a card from us Monday. Let's see.
Here's the plan for 23. These signs.
Who seconded that?
Did you get the other one? Get-
Oh, in the front?
No, no. Come on, right there.
No, I didn't. Thank you.
Did we,
Stroke guy.
You're done. You're done.
They're all approved.
You're done.
I have
Yes.
8:45.
We're all,
We're quick.
7:45.
Oh, you wanted to give me
But-
the wrong time?
but you won,
You won.
so it doesn't matter.
there
We
were-
didn't even have to talk, and we didn't even have to listen.
Right.
but we
I was-
unofficially,
You owe Matt Stencil a hug.
Was Mr. Stencil here?
He was.
and a bunch of
I
other,
did have 8:45 on my.
And a lot of abutters too, Glenn.
yeah, a lot of
But this
abutters.
room was-
Huge audience.
Oh.
That's not a lie.
But we officially named it Glen Stream.
Yeah,
Yes.
I wonder, you gave me 8:45.
Does he know
I just
that
came out of-
when you don't
out
show
of,
up, you get in
Holden
charge of a
and
project?
Oxford.
I
I
have
had
to
Holden
make
and
a
Oxford
call.
and then you guys.
Go home.
I
Brandon,
know, but I wanted to talk about.
does he know when you don't show up, you get in charge of a
To
project?
know what's happening with the
Probably doesn't
economy.
realize it.
Okay, we have 5 minutes here.
The Econo Lodge. If you're all set with the stencil one.
Yes, and we're naming it Glens
Very
Brook.
interested to hear what's going on with that.
Well, to start at the top at Unibank, we did give you, there was an old clog in a 36-inch reinforced concrete pipe above Armsbury Road, the second pond up, not the pond at the road, but above that, there's a pond. You're familiar with the pond. I did send Brandon. The clog was inside the pipe. It had been there years. There wasn't an active beaver dam. He had stuffed the pipe with about 6 feet of clog. And I talked to Unibank. I didn't talk to Brandon. It wasn't an active dam, but if we want to keep water cold in that brook, we don't need that extra 3 feet of water sitting in that upper pond, draining into that lower cooler pond, which is groundwater fed. In fact, the back of the pond was thawed out and the front of the pond was cooler just a week ago when we had that coldest snap, or a week and a half. Go on. So, there it is, the road. Yeah, so this pond, well, this water's backed up in here because the pipe right here was clogged for a while, and the water was eroding, an erosion gully around the pipe right there. And so Unibank was selling it to Randy Waterman of Waterman Associates, and I was always concerned that the headwaters, this brook is a little bit warm as we leave, and it gets cooler as it gets down to just above the Econo Lodge. There's less plant life up there, less insect life. Obviously, there's the opportunity to warm up as it goes through here. Groundwater discharge comes into this end of the pond, but this flows in here. Now the water is going through the pipe. Again, it wasn't a removal of an active beaver dam. There was no beaver activity in it, but it was clogged, so it went up in the pipe because I couldn't get the clog out from the mouth of the pipe because the pond, it has almost a 90-degree slope going down into the water. In fact, I put a ladder in the pond in order to stand to try to pull the front of the stuff out. I had a laborer with me. But then it didn't work, so for 4 days, just that, because we have to remove it slowly, I went up the pipe with the waders, with the potato rake, and removed it, then backed out as it started flowing heavier. Then went up the next day and removed a little bit more and backed up, and then I had my girl spot me. I had a spotter in case I flushed out the pipe, because I didn't know how fast the stuff was gonna actually flow. The beaver had, there was so much dirt in there and then sticks that it didn't come out fast. So by the 4th day, it was a matter of just going in from the mouth and unloading and unclogging it. Now it's functioning as proper. There's no more erosion happening as it was going around. There was no water. It was a trickle going through that culvert. The majority of the water was going around. So I think when you're in the area sometime, you might see it. And that will keep the headwaters cooler instead of it all backing up. It had already been delineated, so it doesn't affect anything as far as delineation. Waterman will be in front of you at some time, this Randy Waterman, Waterman Associates. I don't know what they're doing up there, but I did explain to them, and I'll hopefully reiterate that under stormwater regs, it says flow, if your stormwater flows into or if the stormwater flows near a cold water fishery. So the term near is so subjective that how near is near. And I just testified in January to do a hearing for the motocross track in Charlton, and near, that they were even considering 2,000 feet away, that was considering near. So this presently is not called the Trout Brook. It's a Trout Brook from Econo Lodge and then up the Pleasant Valley. But as we get the state to look at it, and we did have spotted some trout up there now, and the habitat's great, 62 degrees at the height of October, August, September. So we're hoping that the commission and that the Watermans do work to design their stormwater to 1 inch in 24 hours instead of a ½ inch in 24, because 1 inch would be that critical area, so drinking water supply, beach or a cold water fishery. And I explained that to them, and hopefully I can work with them. In fact, one of the principals for Waterman is on the conservation in Holden, and I was just in front of him, Mike Scott. So that's the headwater. And then you have that new road coming in from J. McGill. That was contributing warm water, and it caused an erosion gully right in here, and we have some photos. It was coming down here, flowing down and in, and I'm gonna work with Mr. Stencil, and the water can get off the road sooner and just go through the woods instead of dumping directly into the brook. And on this side, the water was also coming down, and there's an erosion, there's a delta right now, approximately here. Mr. Stencil just fixed the erosion gully that undermined part of the road. And so in both cases, there's just leaf litter that's accumulated on the side of the road. If we can just keep water to come off the road, that'll keep it not flowing into here hot, not into there hot. That culvert, Mr. Stencil had already ordered a sleeve. And when I talked to him that he's got an erosion gully about 2 months ago or so, he says, well, I already ordered the pipe to sleeve it in there. He goes, it's crushed down. He goes, well, I really don't need the road, but I ordered the pipe. I says, I'll file for you at no cost to remove the pipe. It's 19 feet long. And we can restore that little piece of brook. I can actually create it's called a cold water red there, where trout will spawn in cold water. I have them in Charlton spawning in 3 locations. I modified the groundwater. It was on the DEP as SEP last year, Dole's Court. And the female looks for a groundwater upwelling to lay her eggs in because it's 46 to 48, and that's the optimum temperature for egg development in the winter. But they will spawn in non-upwelling gravel, and the eggs can hatch out as much as 2 months later. 200 Sportsman Club is where I studied that in the 80s and 90s in Webster. So it's a small opportunity to create a little red development area in the pool just before it reaches the crest and then goes down the stones that were placed there when they originally built the road. So I figure it's a little bit more habitat than putting a pipe in, and that's why I took it on to do that. And then going all the way to the Econo Lodge, because you've been so patient with me. He is, we've modified the design. I talked to last night, Belcher Steel, Kerry Belcher. He's still ready to blow torch that half moon out for me. Willie Dunn, who's a master carpenter, retired. The trout brook I did last year under the SEPT is on his property, so he works with me like this. He's gonna we're gonna do a coffer dam in front of the steel dam. It's gonna, it'll be 2 feet out, and it's shallow right before that dam in the pond side. And so we can come 2 feet out, 6 feet across, 2 feet in. You use the material that you would use on the pipe in your cellar. It has the slit in it and it insulates the pipe. Well, you use that on the plywood, the 3/4 inch, and that is the seal. So when you put this up against the steel existing coffer dam, that will be the seal, and then you use these 5 foot long pry bars that I have, and it will nail them down, and it will make sure to push it up against. Then we'll de-water that little area, so that way we don't have to de-water the pond. So now we de-watered this little box, and now and then we pump that water out of the little box, and then we can steel cut that without messing with the pond. So that's how we're gonna actually do the pond, and talk to Jay. It's a lot less invasive. It's still only 1 foot 3 inches down, and you're gonna see, I know I said this during the summer, but we had heavy rains, and that's another reason why I took on something else on the brook to show that I'm continuing to work on the brook, and we're back to the Econo Lodge this month to file that paperwork, and I'm hoping that it can be minimum paperwork, but that's gonna be up to Brandon and the commission. But I'm gonna file that, and then we'll see what you do with that from there. So I
Wanda.
offer minimum to get that steel cut out of it. And we're expecting actually hatching trout in this brook this spring. We did see some signs in there, and during those the high water flows we had this fall, they 6 inch, and a little bit of clog down below 146. It allowed the water to come up high enough. It became a thick nape during spawning, which is October to November. And I believe that's when that's where some of those brookies might have come from, right below. And as I said before, we had brookies below when we originally did the La Claire, which is market 32. When Mark Briggs was there, we had the spawning down there. So we're confident that we have some brookies up there. So we'll get the Econo Lodge done. Mr. Patel is obviously still obligated to it. I'm obligated.
Wanda, did you give Glenn that folder on Cold Spring Brook that I brought in? Remember the folder I brought up? You were putting it aside to give to him. Did you give it to him?
No, I'm gonna have to find it.
We didn't follow up with it, but there was a whole crew of people in here, butters. when
Oh, from the
Stetson came
condo
in.
up to townhouses up there?
Yes.
And they were concerned about a certain amount of runoff that was coming from the new townhouses down, and some pond they were afraid was gonna rupture, and
I brought that to the DPW, and he went to the planning board, Mr. Stencil, because he had 2 erosion gullies he never saw before. We had some peak rain events before, but we've had other ones, maybe not as many, but so we started looking at the catch basins at that new townhouse or whatever those are, and right before the road, the water's bypassing during peak rain events, those 2 catch basins, and they're coming down. So I brought it to his attention so that they would, and apparently he went to the planning board, and they're gonna do some, make sure that, apparently that project's gonna be done in 3 years, or the phasing, that he said that they're gonna do something prior to that to ensure that he doesn't, because he never had both of those erosion gullies. That road, for the first time, eroded, and I was there for the last 3 years, it blew a hole, and I think Brandon might have seen it in my photos, I sent it anyways, it blew a hole in the, above the culvert, and then eroded into the mouth of the culvert, and then again over at the road, I told you right here, that had never eroded either, so we feel that it was the subdivision that was sending, and one gentleman from the subdivision, the butter, did call me, and I explained where this was going.
as long as you're aware of it, I mean, that's all is.
Well, we're downgrading. The one thing I said, that, I don't know, blowing out, doing anything, the only thing we're gonna do to the pond is improve the water quality to make sure we don't have any more erosion gullies down there. Yeah, the erosion gully is, he blocked it off here and he blocked it off there. In the erosion gully, the pipe is right in the middle, and there's a gully, and this water went down and then eroded a gully, and this is going back towards Almsbury. And so what he did do was dump the water before it into the brook, but the brook is still over the slope. What I'm gonna do with Mr. Stencil is ensure that we're both taking water off the road and gradient. Because I already looked at it, I actually used a cement hole where we could just take the road sand off, and it sends the water in the woods, so it can go for 150 feet through the woods, through the swamp before it hits the brook. And that's where if we're not gonna do anything like a basin, that's where we wanna get the water in the woods, let it cool off before it hits the brook. So that's that, but I still am so concerned that I missed your hearing. When was I on the agenda? I have it for 8:45, huh?
8 o'clock.
I don't know how it made 8:45 on my book, I apologize. I'm sorry. I wanted to say everything, but even more. Well, there's a new member, and I didn't get to talk in front of him yet, but, no, I'm serious, but thank you. And I just closed a hearing in Oxford tonight. I sent my fiancée there for Zion Lutheran Church for a trout brook that just got its butt kicked. Since '82, I've been studying it. This is the first time at the end of the summer I went in there, no spawning age trout. It's in South Oxford on Route 12, Providence, Worcester, and I'm working with the EPA on it. One other thing that you might choose to know, under MS4, which is your stormwater runoff from roadways, I'll send it over to Brandon. We just reviewed the whole thing, because we're doing a brook in Wayland, not we, but I'm doing a brook in Wayland. No more than 3 degrees Fahrenheit increase when your stormwater goes into the cold water fishery. That's how strict it is. No more than 3 degree Fahrenheit increase in temperature. So now we bought these things called hobos. They're temperature probes, and you set them 6,000 readings. You leave it in the brook, and it's all computerized, and then you pull it out, you put it next to the computer, it'll give me the time and the hour. You can set it for every 3 hours, every 6 hours, once a day, whatever you want to set it for, and then you put it in. Well, we're gonna monitor the temperature going into this Zion Lutheran Church property that we just got a negative determination on tonight too, to restore that habitat, but also study it at the headwater where Route 12 comes in. And working with Bill Clarity, who's probably been in front of you at DOT, but now they're gonna have a little bit more fire on them, because Thelma Murphy, which is with EPA out of Boston, and David Gray, they're taking my information in, and we will look at least cold water fisheries. What they do in other places, that's one thing, but when cold water fisheries, we're gonna make a little case on cooling your water off, because it's required under that MS4 regulation, which just was updated July of 18.
I have a
So we'll
question
send it
for
over.
you.
Okay? Let's, somebody else, oh, I'm sorry, I thought there was somebody else before me.
I have a question. Before the market got built, we did a temperature study in Cold Spring Brook down and back. Now, did that have something to do with your project, or is it?
I remember we went out there with Hartley.
Yeah, I
Richard
remember.
Hartley.
Yeah, we went out there and we installed some hobos.
What we did with Mr. Briggs, and you must have followed up on it, the original design by Heritage Design Group for Leclerc, the basin was right up next to the brook. The discharge was adjacent to the brook. At that time, stormwater said you have to have the basin 100 feet away. They didn't know that when they designed it, and that's what delayed them for like 3 to 4 hearings. They finally moved the thing back away from the brook. So I'm not sure how it, and I think stormwater has changed since then. Now there's a mounding and there's other things, but I would hope that their basin is max infiltration and cooling off, because that's what basically that's what that basin on 146 happened, was max infiltration. This is 2 years ago with DOT that we forced on them across from the corner lodge. So that was a long distance to flow path. And
Glenn's Basin, I call it.
Huh?
We call it Glenn's Basin.
Well, yeah, it
To
did
go
take a
with
while
Glen
to get
Stream.
that, but- Okay. I don't know what you-
So
I have a
we did the pre-testing of the temperature in the water, and I think there was supposed to be a post-market testing, so I don't know where that is.
I remember the board waiving a lot of that.
Yeah,
Remember that? They came in, asked, because they were supposed to do all kinds of water quality testing.
Because you get a
And
well system down there
Right,
too.
well, Pat Doherty came in and said, pretty please, and the commission pretty much gave him everything he wanted.
Well, there's a new thing to hang anyways on cold water fisheries, is to look at what's coming out of your basin, and at least if we follow the lead of EPA, their strict guideline is no more than 3 degrees Fahrenheit. That sounds tough. Lincoln Plaza ended up doing, I was on that one, we built that 60 mil. That's a series of basins to cascade down with shade, and that all came out.
Is that for new construction or for existing infrastructure?
The way we caught this basin over here, that 2004 memorandum of agreement between EPA and Mass Highway at the time, was that if you're redeveloping your road and already putting money into your road, that's how we caught them, was that that's the time you should look at eminent domain. Eminent domain, was it eminent domain? Land taking. I think that's what that.
Eminent domain, yeah.
Eminent domain, if there's property that could be taken to put a basin in, we don't like to see property taken, but if there's property to be taken, where you can put a basin in, and if it's a cold water fishery, drinking water supply, or cold water fishery, did I say the 3? Then that's what you should look at. That's how they ended up getting John Casey's property over there next to, on the north side of, and on the east side of, Cold Spring
northbound,
Brook.
northbound.
Not that he minded any, because he only had 125 by 150 piece of property, and he couldn't do anything else with it. So it wasn't, Joyce O'Connor was working, and I was working with him. He didn't mind him taking it, and he got pittance for it, because they only give you what the property, the value is, and there was really no value there, because there's no sewer over there, so he couldn't do anything with the property anyways. So it all worked out. He got a little bit of money, we got a basin, and trout got cooler water and not dumping sediment into the brook. But on the one that I'm doing in South Oxford, they've got an erosion gully 8.5 feet deep in sand. It's presently out there. The kid walks in the backyard, he falls down, there's the whole flared end reinforced concrete. I think it's a 24-inch, it's down in the hole. So they're already gonna be spending money. Bill Clarity, in fact, said to Judy Lochner, the agent, she said, this is only 3 weeks ago, when I said, look at Bill, we got a problem here, this and that. And he sent it over to Judy, and he said, Judy, tell Glenn I'm already working on it. I thought he was just jumping on it right then. No, 2 years ago, when we brought it to their attention, he slowly was working on it. Now, they are spending money over there to fix this erosion gully from their discharge. Well, when they fix that, then that's how I'm gonna catch them, to also put the proper sized basin in to cool off their water, instead of just discharge out of your catch basin. In fact, there's a guy, Nathan something, and I'll send it to you. He has all the catch basin data that DOT has to send into EPA, just like your towns do. If you're MS4, you send in your basin, you say what you're doing with them. Well, you can't get that online. DOT does not have it online, but EPA has it, and Thelma Murphy gave me the guy that has it, and we're tracking down in the Whalen case, and then also in this South Oxford case, how many catch basins are dumping into that one discharge point. So that's something to follow up too, but at least over there in South Oxford, I've got money being spent to be able to capture the basin. If you're gonna put money into it already, then let's do a little bit more money and do it right.
So
I have
it-
one question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have the abutters card?
Yes,
when you send
yes.
them to me?
I always have the certificate of mailing, as we don't normally do the green cards because
No,
the law
no,
does
you
allow
don't.
us to do this
Yeah, you
certificate of
don't
mailing.
do it.
But I just found out
Just
today,
update copy.
don't try to do it on a chapter 91. They still require the green cards to come back.
Do
I
you?
just got a phone call. So that
Thank
only
you.
works under the Wetland Protection Act, not chapter, not Great Ponds, chapter 91. So in case you ever run into that, Brandon, you might probably
I'm
do
still
it.
doing it the old way.
I never do it the old way because it costs the client a lot of money, but,
Yeah,
so I just made I made a mistake and now they call it, hey, Sue You is her name. Sue You.
Firm
Uh,
mailing book for accountable mail.
But we're catching up. We're still learning. Thank
Okay.
you so
Thanks,
much
Bud.
for your
Thank you,
time.
Glenn.
We'll be in front of you, and thank you for the work, allowing the work on the brook. I'm serious.
Good night.
Good night now. Thank you for all your time. And good holidays. Let me say
You
that.
too.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we got about 3 more minutes to wait.
What's on the agenda? The right away off Providence Street? What do we have to talk about on that?
K
Where are we?
11 L.
Oh, that's just, New England Power on the edge of the road. Does that need a certificate of compliance?
Yeah, K11, K12, L12, K11, L12.
Is that something we can vote on?
That's like the grant, I don't know. that
I wasn't
William
listening, I'm
Power one?
sorry.
William Power.
The,
Oh, you can vote on that, yeah, the complete certificate on the, one off Providence Street, absolutely.
Right.
Making a motion to issue a complete certificate of compliance for K11 L12 Road New England Power off Providence Street.
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna get to the sheet for that.
Did we sign the one from Moja?
Yes,
We did?
that was in the orange folder.
Here's a sheet for that.
This actually went a lot quicker than I thought it was gonna.
Don't jinx us. We had a couple of continuations.
Yeah.
Okay, the next is 38 Horn Drive. I think we're close enough. Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November, you've got November 7th on here instead of December 5th. 2018 at 9 PM at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxford Road, Sutton, Mass. Purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Onzime Pickard, Sutton, Mass. Project consists of construction and of an addition to an existing dwelling with associated earthwork and landscaping within the buffer zone on map 15, parcel 51, on 38 Horn Drive, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40.
Good evening, Travis Brown with Andrews Survey and Engineering, here on behalf of the applicant, Ozzie Pickard, who's here tonight as well. For an address at 38 Horn Drive. This is for a single-family, existing single-family home with a proposed garage addition. On this plan, the existing house is here. The proposed garage is this brown area. Singletary Pond is here. We have a 50-foot aura, 100-foot aura, and 200-foot. So as part of this single-family addition, we're moving the existing septic tank and pump chamber, which are currently in this location here, putting it out in the driveway, rated for H20 loading so they can drive over it. There's a large portion of existing gravel that's in this area now. We are proposing to make that pavement, which is this gray colored area. So coming into the driveway, they would come in this location, and then one of the garage bays would be here. The second bay would be here. We're proposing trench drains in front of those bays because this grading comes down the hill. It'd be a 4 or 6 inch PVC pipe that would discharge out into the lawn. We plan on putting some riprap at the end of that, so that would flow down the lawn and towards Singletary. On this plan, we've provided a stone infiltration trench that will provide some level of infiltration from this new impervious area. We're also going to put underground infiltration chambers that will capture any roof runoff from portions of this addition, also portions of that deck, which there's some level of that, speaking with the owner on site now. So most of this is lawn area. There's one tree we are proposing to cut, which is here. It's a 28-inch maple. Ozzy is open to planting. We just briefly discussed an area down here, which is in general close to the water. Maybe some high bush blueberries or any recommendations that the commission may have. So we have received approval through Board of Health for the moving these tanks to this location. Also, there currently, or previously, was a utility pole here that has since been moved here out of the way. Is not an obstruction anymore. A portion of this gravel driveway that's here, this hatched area, that is going to be loamed and seeded as part of this. There's also various gardens that will be planted potentially in this location here. So the plan that was submitted will be revised to show these things that are on this plan. Probably not what you have seen. Happy to answer any questions.
I was remiss in my checklist here. Have we received the abutters notifications? And you answered that you have approval from the Board of Health. Anything with Planning Board or the Appeal Board?
Yes, the planning board approved it, and the ZBA approved it, and it's been registered with Worcester Deeds. And the building department has a copy of the registration.
Thank you. Okay. You have anything?
Can you go over stormwater?
Yep. So a large part of this, like I said, is gravel currently. That area is being proposed to be paved. This slope generally comes down in this location, which would, come down towards that proposed garage. So we have this stone infiltration trench, so any of that runoff from that pavement would get into there, or it would get into one of these trench drains, which would discharge into that grass area, runoff on this, length of vegetation down towards Singletary Pond.
Okay, it's all, lawn or existing disturbed area. It's a little bit closer to the pond. I'm looking at the plan that you're working off, Travis, and I'm looking at the one that I have.
Yep.
Yours looks a little bit different. With this one, the addition. I'm trying to figure out. What's the date on yours?
I have a plan.
Well, this was an in-progress plan that was being worked on after the initial filing. I don't know if there was dialogue with John and yourself about some of these plans. No dialogue with that. Because there were some plans, and then there was an erosion control line, which I don't believe was on.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like plantings. On mine.
Goes up in-
No, they might be on yours too.
We're right here.
Oh, those are existing.
Yeah, so those are existing trees.
So we're just taking that one out and taking red maples and blueberries.
This one's dated November 14.
Yeah, that's the date on mine. I think there was some work after that, added plantings and erosion control.
And that's the plan that you want to work off of.
This is the plan that's currently, that I saw today for the first time, and I know after speaking to you, we added the infiltration trench,
Yeah.
those stormwater units, and then to offset or mitigate for this tree coming down, we specified a planting area. Speaking with Ozzy, it seems more logical to be down in that location.
Down by
So
the water?
yeah.
All the better.
Right, so this is kind of a working plan, and I apologize for bringing new information in, but I wanted to have some presentation plan to work from to show you that what we were intending to do.
So this is not the revised plan, so this is the previous
Yeah,
plan.
there's no revised formal plan as of now. You know, I figured we'd come and have this discussion, we'll revise that plan based on any input we get from the commission.
Bob, you
This
have any?
doesn't show the garage.
Well,
No, well, it seems like there's some walls missing.
There's,
Some
yeah,
lines
there are some
different.
lines missing on that garage.
Get a different
All right, I
garage.
thought I was just like being a stupid non-engineer, but I'm not.
I saw it today and I asked the same question.
I mean, you've touched on it somewhat. There's very little detail of the runoff from the trench drain, which is the most critical, as far as I'm concerned, as far as potentially collecting contaminants. And, you know, you're not showing where it's going or how we're treating that.
That's right,
And
that's
I
right.
think that's, needs to be shown. Obviously, you're not showing the erosion control, I don't think, on this drawing at least.
Correct.
I'm looking at. I don't think it's a huge deal, but technically, the loaming and seeding outside of the property line, which is shown on this drawing, is not on, that's this order of condition typically can't encompass
on it,
that
yeah.
because it's another piece of property. So, I mean, that's,
Easement, right? You'd have to have an easement on the property
Yeah,
next door.
so we can take that off, I think, under, I'm not sure, under the bylaw, under the Wetlands Protection Act, that activity would be exempt, changing gravel to lawn. You know, do they have the permission to do that without?
Are you changing grades though?
No, the grades remain, so it'll just be loamed over and then seeded.
Then you do have a point. Turning pervious surface into impervious to pervious is an exempt activity.
So we could take the hatched area that is off of our property, off of the plan for clarity.
Okay.
Okay, so you need to come back.
Yeah, just back to Bob's point for a minute, what I was gonna do is a stone infiltration trench, similar to what we did adjacent to the driveway on Manchog Road. That was a new paved surface, 2 foot by 2 foot infiltration trench that would capture and infiltrate anything runoff from the driveway.
other than, we still gotta deal with where the trench drain discharge will be, and now we're treating that.
That's correct. So that would discharge, you know, over here, we'll look at either a riprap area or a depression to be able to settle that and spread it.
Exactly, I mean, rather than just have it beat feet to the lake as fast as it can get there, it's something to
Right.
to hold it in there for a little while.
No issues with the neighbor, because this continues on to a neighbor's, correct?
It does.
So what happens with the pavement, right at that change of property line? Yep, right there.
Yeah, so that'll be paved. It's up to them if they want to file
We're
and
not worried
pave
about
there.
water going into the neighbors?
This is
Just
all
asking, I mean-
graded, that it's headed down.
It's coming
The
this way.
the neighbor's yard is higher, the driveway drops and races around on the present curve, if that's okay, just for now. Water comes down and chases over here where that, on your plan, you see the stone on the edge? It goes around that, on his property and my property, and then goes into our grass. because his elevation is 2 feet, his driveway is 2 feet higher than my driveway. So,
Perfect.
so it's all my, that's
Yep,
what I
yep.
always said.
It all
whatever I
tips
need
back
to do
onto
for
your
water,
lot.
because
Yep,
it's
just
my
question.
water.
Yep.
Whatever it takes, so, not deflected to my neighbors.
When would you like to continue to?
Next available?
Make a motion to continue to December 19th at
7:45.
7:45.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
7:45.
They don't even get that.
You go by Ozzy?
Yeah.
Thank you, I can tell.
Good night.
Good night. I think that's it.
We did have one thing. We had a complaint, well, I had multiple phone calls and texts, and I don't know if Mike got any being on Manchog. There was complaints filed at King's Campground for work being done. So I drove by, I did call Sutton Board of Health, and they have a permit, or permits, I should say, I don't know, for, new septic systems, leach field, et cetera, and they're on order by DEP. But I may be wrong, but it does appear that it's within 200 feet. Obviously, it's gonna be an improvement over the septics and leach fields that are there, but, it was a complaint, so I did think it should be brought up and, go from there.
I have information.
So when we had the dam race, I was over there, and I looked in and said, wow. And it's a pretty large project. If
Yeah.
they're not filed, I would be willing to bet they're
They have a,
within 200 feet.
I thought so too, and I don't wanna throw them under the bus, and at the end of the day, it's gonna be better than what's there, because it's gonna be new, but when it got brought to my attention, and you can't miss it when you drive around the corner.
It's
So I feel like I have to bring it up. They do have a permit with Board of Health, and they're on order by DEP, does that make sense?
Yeah, and
Time
I-
order to fix them.
I got an email on that, and apparently I didn't print it. I'll have to send you the information, but
So
they did, Judith called me back and said that there is information on that.
I just thought it should be,
From your car right on, man, you don't even have to get out. 35 miles an hour, you could see this project.
yeah.
So that yellow line's approximately 200 foot. Did
Yeah.
you say that it's between?
Yes.
Oh,
I think
it's,
further
so see the
away.
yellow line?
Yeah.
Below, to
It
the
starts
right.
there and goes almost to the lake.
Yeah.
And then if you look closer, then there's another gravel pile farther out, almost where your yellow line ends.
And I don't
which
wanna
didn't
pick
see.
on any, but it's not nice and neat. Let's say that it seems to be very rugged type of construction going on.
So they should file if they're,
Who wants to tell them?
That's what I wondered.
hmm?
That's what I was wondering. That's why I contacted Judith Smith, but she seems
Well,
to think that it's.
DEP is only concerned with 100 feet from the lake, but the bylaw extends that to 200 feet. So the area between 100 feet and 200 feet, DEP doesn't care about. Only Sutton Conservation cares about.
I have to go down to the Board of Health and look at the plans to see where the footage is, because that's what Judy told me to do. I got to look at it when I got this copy. So this just gives the dates of when it was, and it was September 2016 in the Board of Health.
I'm gone until Sunday. I'll drive by again on Monday when it's light out, and I can shoot an email and just, without going on the property at least.
Okay, so what's the
I
rest of the
mean-
plan?
Cease and desist.
I don't think we wanna do that when it's ordered by DEP, and it's obviously gonna be an improvement. My concern was if they are in 200 feet, and then
They
we've
should
already had a
file.
couple of the butters from Manchog in today. We had someone from Singletary, so wanna make sure everyone follows the
Yes.
same playing field.
Order them into the next meeting and have them explain themselves?
Or file.
So let's say this, I've seen enough to say that we should have them in.
Send them a letter and.
I mean, I did. I would be lying to say I didn't.
These are new owners from the other owners that.
I was hoping after I got the stuff, I was gonna drive around and it was gonna be exaggerated, and it's It's not.
I mean, I just assumed they had an order of conditions. I don't even remember if I saw hay bales and silk. I just saw a large construction
Well, to the
project.
point, I even called Brandon and Juan and said, did I miss this? And wasn't
Yeah.
just putting the address together? And so,
I would go to the point where they would have to file.
Okay?
assuming they're within 200 feet.
Right.
I believe they
you
are.
can't make them unless we have actual
They
measurements.
have to file.
I'll check downstairs tomorrow.
And
They have the plan downstairs, right? That should have enough measurement to determine whether they have to
Yeah,
file or
there'll be
not.
a measurement on it.
Whether it's an RDA or an NOI is up to you.
Okay, I'll come up and,
Okay, if you
But
wanna come up, we can go down
I'll
and
come
look
up
at
and
it.
go down with you.
I think the thing you're going to is that the letter has to be sent out telling them that they have to file, and if they don't file by a certain date, there's a cease and desist order gonna follow. Is that generally what everybody's saying here?
Well, the letter could state if you're within 200 feet, because if it's 201, or actually if it's 200,
Right,
you
Well
know,
said.
I don't think we can send a cease and desist, Paul, because it's DEP
No,
ordered.
no, this has been an ongoing project for years.
I'm not sure, you know,
I think if they must have given them a timeline that they have to fix them by.
Mhm. And they had to extend it several times.
Still, wouldn't you have to file even if, or?
Yes,
you still have to file.
You still have to file.
still have to file, and you could give them a
In all
cease and
those
desist.
permits,
You-
there's
you
always
can?
a
Sure.
disclaimer that said that you are still responsible for complying with all other.
Town and regulations,
Yeah, federal, state, and local level regulations.
not that I'm concerned. I also didn't see a DEP number. There could have been one there. I wasn't really looking for it.
There is no DEP number, that's what I call, that's what I
That's fine,
contacted
you wanna,
Judy
you
for.
wanna be nice,
There is no DEP.
right? This DEP mandated, it's an improvement, but you want them to file, even if it's after the fact at this point. So I think that you can send them a letter, maybe ask them to come in on the 19th, but if you don't get an answer by a certain date, then perhaps you send out an enforcement order. You don't have to do a cease and desist, but you can threaten them with fines, which might be enough. They don't file by a certain date.
Where's the store in the little?
It's right
Over to
there,
the
right,
left.
see the trees, right to the
Yeah,
left of
trees,
the trees,
yeah.
it's right there at the road.
Okay, so it's kind of off the map.
The middle trees.
Gee, I was down there last week, but I didn't see.
No, you know what? Maybe it is above that yellow line. I don't know.
So I can tell you that I'm pretty sure that it's from the yellow line forward. See that dirt road?
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
It's
all
below
ripped
the
up.
dirt
From
road,
there
right?
to that next first
There's
trailer.
a couple trails are actually missing, or at least one's gone.
Yeah, so from that yellow line right to that row of trailers on the lake is what I remembered, I believe.
Just a question on all our letters are certified, right? Return receipt
Yes.
that we send out, okay.
Do we have a good address to send it to?
Oh, yeah, I have it.
I have never
Right here.
stepped foot in King's Campground.
It's 24.
Never had to,
Road.
never been a filing, never been a complaint.
So those are new septic
nothing.
Yeah,
systems for
yes,
all
there
is that
has
what's going
been.
on?
Remember they came in
That's
when
what,
they were gonna
um,
make it into
Board of Health
houses,
told
and
me,
there
'cause I
was a
called
whole
today.
circle, and there were
Yeah, and
lots.
I
set-
don't remember
They
that.
withdrew
You don't remember that?
That was before him.
That was when Paul Boudier was going to sell it for his house.
Yeah.
And then he rented it out to a different,
And now
Yes,
it's,
and I remember those people
They
coming in
moved.
because
They
they
sold
did
it
have
to
a
new
filing
people.
because it was about the docks along the water.
RDA.
And we went down there, yeah.
2016.
Well, the only thing I'd like to point out is, regardless of how much benefit new septic, if the contractor that's doing it is a sloppy contractor and screws up
Right.
and dumps 100 gallons of oil in that lake, they're all gonna be coming to you guys and wanna know, how come you allowed them to work there without supervision?
well, that was my
Even
concern with
though
all the rain.
Even though the fact it's gonna be good for the lake when it's all said and done, but if it's not done properly, and the only way you can get it done properly is have a proper set of plans and set of order of conditions to work with. I mean, I agree, it's something that has to be done and DEP's mandated, but if the contractor screws up and pollutes that lake, I know Mike's gonna be upset.
And they should have erosion controls up
There were
before they do
wattles.
any work. There were wattles.
They
Yeah, but we.
were not the kind you like.
Well, we like, when it's next to the lake, we want the silt fence as
Yeah,
well as
I
walls.
didn't
mean,
see the cell fence. I saw it would appear to be again, real quick look, small and a 12-inch wattle. Maybe it was 12-inch, and it did appear to look like it had
I'm
the black
just
mesh on it.
saying potentially there's a real risk here, or potential risk.
Oh, yeah.
that
I agree with Bob,
Yeah.
100%.
We have to, take into consideration before we say, well, it's all for the betterment of the whole town.
right.
No, I totally agree.
I will take a ride down there tomorrow.
There's a big bank of gravel there too.
I'd like to keep it all even. You can't, the guy
Yeah,
next
same.
door's doing, you gotta keep it on the
Yeah.
same wavelength.
3 people within a few hundred feet
Right.
across the lake.
Just filed.
Yeah,
Right.
so.
Like I said, I feel pretty confident to say, send them a letter and have them come in, explain what they
Right,
got going
right,
on.
that's
Have them have an engineer, right, they can say a letter, they're outside our jurisdiction, or.
If they're outside 200 feet, you know, I apologize for any
I
bringing
just
this up.
would like to see them,
Like
they can come in 2 weeks from now, or 4 weeks from now, and say, well, yeah, we'll work on getting your engineer out there. So, I mean, you get all this time going by that they're out there.
I think it's pretty offensive that they don't have a DEP number, because what caught my eye was the messy construction, so to be not even caring, who cares? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's blatant.
Well, there's new owners.
Yeah.
Yeah, in their defense, it's probably new owners and
Yeah,
they,
something
and they,
like that.
and they
You
got,
don't
they
know.
probably adopted that mandate from the DEP
Yeah.
to get it done, so.
And again, that's understandable. But
And they
just-
may not understand, that is
That-
true.
right.
Absolutely, you never should assume that somebody
Well, they
understands.
think
It's-
now
it's
I
not
already
an
got a
easy
permit
thing
from
to
Board of
understand.
Health, I'm all set. Maybe that's what they think.
In DEP, yep.
They're right in North Kingstown.
If it's a contractor that's ever done a
contractor,
job
no.
before in his entire life, should know that if he's working next to a lake, that he has to have some sort of order of conditions. I mean,
You know, I'd almost, well, if it's new septics, it
The
has
other-
to be by a licensed
The other
installer,
people
so
couldn't
you.
speak English.
You would think,
Right.
it
I
can't
didn't
be
see
too.
a name
That
on
was
the
part of the
equipment.
problem.
There were 2 pieces of equipment there.
That's why they didn't come back and file with us.
Yeah, the other people that were there
Sent all
escaped
the paperwork.
from Eastern Europe somewhere. They couldn't speak English, and they were,
They
The
were
owners?
yes,
Oh.
the people who were running the campground before.
They were supposed to come back to us for the septic things,
Yeah,
and they never did. And
but it had never gotten done either.
Never got done. no.
Right.
So these people took over.
Right, yeah, these people might not know. I mean,
Yeah, I forgot what
They
the
could have
story
bought this
was.
set of
They
plans and-
escaped from,
shame them, the contractor, more than the owner.
They purchased in 2016,
All right.
November 2016.
Is that a motion?
interesting. Yes.
so, what are we doing?
So, we're gonna send
I'm
a
kinda with
letter.
Bob.
Wanda and I are gonna go down to the Board of Health. We're gonna look at the plans tomorrow. I'm gonna take a ride out there and look at it. We'll send them a letter and tell them to come in, and if they are within 200 feet of the lake, they have to file a notice of intent.
They should stop work immediately, set up erosion controls, and file.
Do you want them to
Maybe you
stop
already
work?
done- Yeah, you might not want them to do that. Because this is, they're on extension.
So, just from what I've seen, from what I can remember, I don't think they're working like you would think, diligently in an organized
Oh, I
manner.
can
I'll
check that out
I
tomorrow.
almost think you're gonna find.
I'll drive down there
You know,
too.
it'll be pleasant, like, is if
Yeah.
you were to say, hey, there was
I'll
a
go.
full work crew there, and they're getting this job done, and
There was no
It
one
is-
working when I.
that's what I've witnessed. I think this has been going on a long time.
Mhm.
So, make note of the workforce that you see.
See, I
So,
would-
I would agree, I wouldn't wanna stop a work in progress, and they're getting cleaned up, but if that's not the case, and
The
it's,
plan is dated July 29th of 2016, so it's been going on for a while.
I thought it was last year, to tell you,
No, I didn't see it last year, and I didn't.
they
hear
might
it.
have cleaned it up a little bit.
Andy, we should go together.
Probably, tomorrow afternoon at some point. I'll call you.
Wow. No.
Oh, I thought I was gonna want to get a trip back.
All right,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
all those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Andy,
I
you
got the
know,
blacksmith coming at between 1 and 2.
You guys.
Are we off?
What did I do?